Welcome back, folks. It is time for our next video with 55 grain full metal jacket boat tail with cantilever from 223bulkbullets.com, also known as Bob's Bullets. Yesterday we tested different levels of crimp. Today I want to test different overall lengths. So I think we've established a pretty good range here from about 2.215 at the shorter end. That allows for a really nice cantilever alignment for crimping and whatnot, and all the way out to 2.260, which is full magazine length. So the plan for today's video is to load up 5 rounds for each length, and we're going to jump in 5 thousandths increments. So 2.215 all the way to 2.260, a 5-shot group for each increment. I am having a hard time today. This was supposed to be very easy. I was going to use my Forster Ultra Micrometer seating die, and it was going to be very easy to dial in 5 thousandths increments. But whenever I got started and started using this, I noticed it was marking up my bullets really bad. And after further inspection, I found there's a big old crack in my seating stem for this dude, which is not cool, man. So I've had to put this guy on the shelf, and I've been trying to do this with my standard Redding seating die, which does a fine job, but it's a lot more difficult to make these fine adjustments. Back to, let me finish up the load data info. We're shooting 25 grains of AR comp. We've tried this load a couple times here in previous videos with Bob's Bullets, and it seemed to work okay. It didn't blow our face off, so that's what we're going to stick with today. It's a nice full case, and it's shown some decent accuracy, so I'm hoping for some good accurate ammo today. As far as primers go, we're going to use the Federal AR small rifle match primers. In our primer testing video with this bullet, this one did pretty darn well. So that's what we're going to use. For brass, using Lake City 556 brass. So I think that's pretty much the details. Now, yeah, it sounds very simple, but I started, like I said, with my Forster die, and it was marking up the bullets. So then I had to pull those bullets, resize those cases again to get the neck right, and it's just been a big pain in the butt. But as you might be able to see, I'm making a little bit of progress. I'm on the 7th row right now. So each row, what I do is I seat it with the previous setting. So the previous setting was our 2.235 number. And you know, you get a couple thousandths of variation here. So I go through them and try to find one that matches the previous number exactly. That one was pretty darn close, half a thousand. There we go. So that guy reads 2.2355. So I'm going to use this as my example number and slowly tweak the die until I get it down to 2.2305. I'll probably just go ahead and go to 2.230. So this has been a slow process of trying to get numbers that are halfway decent. It's a little easier, and actually earlier I was using a Hornady bullet comparator, to where instead of measuring overall length, you know, to the tip of the bullet, this slips down over and measures to the ogive. Now, most bullet design, especially hollow point bullets with, you know, that sometimes have irregular tips, this gives you a much more consistent reading, and it's the more important reading. So that's another way to kind of monitor overall length and get some more stable measurements than you get measuring this way. So I'm still a thousandth too long. There we go. So now this guy reads 2.2305. So this is exactly 5 thousandths shorter than it was when seated with the previous setting. So that's how I've been stepping down the 5 thousandths jumps. So that guy's done. So that's the basics of what I've been doing here. I won't make you sit and suffer through it with me, but it's going along. Like I said, I've only got 3 more rows to go, but we'll skip ahead. I'll see you guys on the range. All right, so since the last video, this gun has been deeply cleaned. So the barrel is very clean, shouldn't be any copper or carbon fouling in there to speak of, hopefully. This is an 18-inch white oak armament barrel. I'll have full details about the gun down in the description. We're going to start with the long ones and work our way shorter. So this first group here is 2.260. All right, we'll just take them in order. Next up is 2.255 inches. I could do with some tighter groups. Velocity looks good, standard deviation looks good, but let's see how 2.250 does. .245. So I feel like I'm having a really good day as far as holding. And these groups are, you know, they're pretty consistent. I don't know, what's that, like 1.5 inches, probably something in that range. And I was hoping for better. So what I want to try really quick, this next one, 2.240, I'm going to shoot it without the suppressor and the chronograph, just so we can see what happens with the group. Now, our velocities are starting to creep up. I'm keeping an eye on the brass. Everything looks fine, so I don't want to go the rest of the way without getting velocity, so we need to get it back on there. But let's just shoot a group, see what happens. So our point of impact raised up a bit, but that still looks like a pretty crappy group. I guess maybe we should have chosen 8208 XBR instead of AR comp. I want to shoot one more group without the suppressor and chronograph. And let's go down 1.25 minutes. Hopefully that'll get the shots out of the writing. I'll be able to see them a little bit better. So here we go, 2.235. Okay, so much for that idea. So put the suppressor and chronograph back on. I've moved the sights back up and then some a little bit. So hopefully these don't hit so high the camera can't see them. All right, next up, 2.230. Okay, so it's nice to see that our velocity didn't get out of control while we had the chronograph off. So, and the brass still looks good as well. Moving on, 2.225. .220. Next up is 2.215 inches. This is it. This is the last one. All right, let's get back to the bench. Try and come up with some explanations for what we're seeing here. Okay, so if we're being honest, this video has turned out pretty lame. I don't know what's happened to our accuracy. We'll look at that more in here in just a minute, but yeah, this target was a whole lot of 1 to 1.5 inch groups. We had one guy at 2 inches, which was by far our worst. Our next worst was this 1.54 incher. And then our best was a 1.16. So basically everything between that 1 1.5 inch range except for the one dude. There don't seem to be patterns. It just kind of seems to be average. I mean, like always, we must remind ourselves this is a 8-cent bullet. Blasting ammo that shoots 1.5 inches isn't a whole lot to complain about, but we've seen better. And if we look back at the other AR comp targets we've shot, here was one, where we shot several different charge weights. We shot from 24 grains up to 25.6 grains. And I guess our two groups that were under 1 inch weren't much under 1 inch. Maybe we just got lucky. So I guess this wasn't all that much better. And then if we go back to the primer test, remember our federal group was really good here at 0.94, but most of the others were pretty in line with what we saw today. So maybe that was a fluke. Maybe we got lucky. You're going to have that sometimes with 5-shot groups. So yeah, maybe we just picked the wrong powder. 8208 XBR may have been a better choice today. But regardless of the powder, I thought we would see something going on. I thought we would pick up a trend. Not even the velocity really seemed to change. So, I mean, I get, a null result can certainly be useful. We can go forward knowing that, at least with AR comp, a little bit overall length changes didn't seem to make a whole lot of difference. Group-wise, velocity-wise. So if we think back to what started this video and the primer video and the crimp video, we got a bit of a chicken or the egg sort of situation here, right? We want to start testing powders with the Bob's bullet, but I don't want to spend a bunch of time testing powders and then find out that there's a golden overall length or primer or crimp that we should have been using. So I think we certainly have identified some good primers, so we know what to use going forward. Crimp didn't seem to make a whole lot of difference, and overall length didn't seem to make a whole lot of difference. So I think our initial goal has been met. We're ready to move on. Let's start throwing some powders at this bullet and see which ones will shoot. So if we had to get through today's lame video to get to that point, so be it. They can't all be winners. So it's a little bit ridiculous, but I think the next powders I want to test are Vitivori. I've been having so much luck with Vitivori powders lately. They're very expensive, so I don't have a lot of experience with them. But I finally bit the bullet and started buying a little bit to try out, and they've been awesome so far. So I've got N133, N135, and N140. I think all three of these would work with our 55 grainer. So I think what I'm going to do is pick 2 of them. Our next Bob's Bullet video is going to be 2 of these guys. I'll do a little research. It's going to be a couple days before we get back to this. So if you guys have suggestions on which one of these 3 has worked for you in the past, or any suggestions for low data and stuff, just let me know in the comments. And I think that's the way we'll go. Because now that we know what we know, we'll start testing powders. We find a really good powder that shoots well. Maybe we'll stop and rerun this overall length test. Maybe things will change, once we're really coming down to the nitty gritty and trying to fine tune a load. We'll revisit this subject. So I think that's where we leave it off today. So if you'd like to help support the channel, the best way is at patreon.com/reloading. We picked up 5 new patrons today. It was a big day. That brought us up to 75. A lot of people getting in for $1 a month, and that's perfect. So come on over and join us. We got a party started over there. The response and support over at Patreon has just been overwhelming. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's crazy. But all right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.